Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to PSGL. George Morgan here, your commentator, alongside me, TK, who is going to be rounding off the season with me.
Down the inside,
absolutely impossible scene.
This is for the win between these two.
I'm on the edge of my seat.
He needs to get it done now.
Blakey will dive to the inside.
We're robust. We got our elbows out.
Ronard takes the lead.
Because here comes Alfie Butcher.
Can't really complain with that one.
It's not going to be easy. The pressure is on, of course.
Yarda Watmere is your champion.
And well, ladies and gentlemen, we have a championship that can be decided today. We've got the penultimate round of your PSGL F2 season, and it's a pleasure to be bringing you the action once again. I've done a couple of races earlier on in this season. My name's Joseph Black, as you can tell by the name right under me, and well, alongside me will be Omi Zaidi, as is all season. But Omi, it's well, as I say, title could be wrapped up today, but it's looking like a very, very good prospect indeed, isn't it?
It really, really is. I mean, so far on this game cycle, all titles for PCF2 unfortunately have been wrapped up before the final race. Today, we might be about to continue that because Tony Hietala has a 13-point advantage when it comes to the championship standings over the next driver of Cameron Dowds. Now, considering the maximum points haul in a final race is 17, you know, we are still getting very, very close to that. So, if Hietala has a good day, Dowds doesn't, and a few drivers as well beneath that who mathematically can still win it. If they all don't have the days that they'll be hoping for, then I think it could definitely be either one which Tony Hietala wraps up today, or one which basically is a foregone conclusion, but just about goes down to the final race.
Yeah, it's going to go down to, hopefully, the final race, but of course we will never quite know until the time comes as to what is going to happen. But of course, the penultimate race this season, as you may have seen by the stream title, will be held at Abu Dhabi, of course, which is typically the venue for the finale of lots of different championships that we all know and love. But of course, it is going to be the final race of the season. The penultimate race of the season here today even, and it will be a 5208 metre circuit. It'll be 3.281 miles, and there's going to be plenty of overtaking opportunities through the DRS straights, down from turn 5 to turn 6, from turn 7 down to turn 9, and then maybe down the main straight as well, which of course is not a DRS zone. But without further ado, we're going to head trackside and have a look at our first cars on track. And have a look at that. This is the first time I've used these overlays, and well, it makes for very, very good viewing, as does a couple of these cars on this very beautiful Yas Marina circuit.
Absolutely, we have got cars hitting the circuit for this 18-minute qualifying, our penultimate qualifying session of the campaign, and a single point available for pole position. So, the 13 points I was mentioning to you a few moments ago can turn to 14 before the 5 lights do go out, if Tony Hietala is able to secure the lap time, the quickest time out of the 16 drivers that we have on the grid here today. And Tony Hietala is a driver who actually has been very good in the past when it comes to qualifying sessions. Before, you know, he started having a bit of a championship challenge last season and started mounting some great performances to get some race wins. It was qualifying, which, if you were to pick a driver out of everyone in season 41 of the F2 bunch, if you wanted to get it right, your highest bet probably would have been Tony Hietala. He's been very good when it comes to qualifying. He's been able to take 7 poles so far in his F2 career, looking to try and make it 8, and as I said, that would bring him 1 point closer to wrapping it all up here under the lights in Abu Dhabi.
Yes, it certainly would take him just that step closer to wrapping it up, as you say. But he's only picked up 1 pole position this season. That would have been last time out in Belgium, where of course he won from pole. But it has been pretty spread out throughout the course of the campaign as to who got poles. Of course, the round before, it was Sergio Sobrino as Tamas Kokeni, the first lap time on the board with a 1:21.488. It was Cameron Dowd who took the pole position in the Netherlands, and splitting the two, it was Alejandro Loureiro who we're watching on with now, the Williams. Of course, only racing once throughout the course of this campaign, the infamous Alex Lofer having a look to see what he can do with his first lap on the board, making the switch from FVR to AMR relatively recently in what looked like a mental announcement. The difference between the professional announcements you get to the teams like FVR and then the one that we got for his move to AMR, which of course allows him to race for the team in all of the different championships that he will be competing in, and also the team that he used to race for. It's a homecoming for himself, and he is going to be right up to the very top of this grid for the time being. He puts himself onto pole with a 1:21.073, putting himself 2.5 tenths ahead of Alexander Dimas and 4 tenths ahead of Tamas Kokeni, as Jensen Rosen splits the 2 kick-salvers.
Yep, so Rosen slots in to 3rd position as well, a driver who's definitely had a huge impact when it comes to some of the steward reports that we've had a couple of weeks ago, and has definitely been getting some great running in as well, as Vaso now goes all the way to the top of the table, a 1:21.006, and now we cut over to Elia Tomasetto, finding themselves in P6. Lager just came over the line a few moments ago, that's P3 for them, and you've just seen Sergio Sobrino, still one of the drivers who mathematically can win the championship, but they're going to need a lot to go their way in these final 2 rounds.
Yeah, needing a lot to go their way, of course, with a reduced point system as to what you usually see in PSGL. Only 17 points, as you say, managed to pick up maximum for the drivers. It is going to be very, very interesting indeed to see if anybody is able to find those tight margins. Scott Holmes as well. As FVR lose one man, they gain another, and Holmes is a very, very big coup. Made massive improvements alongside his engineer, and they both left Thomas Enger Sim Racing within the last couple of weeks to join FVR Campeonato, and he's going to try to maximise and make the most of the pace and make the most of the team that he'll be racing for. And now it'll be fascinating to see the improvement. Of course, was F7 a couple of seasons ago, and is now racing in F2, and he's been pretty competitive in the races that he's done so far.
He has been. I think he's been one of the drivers that we've had our eyes on across a couple of rounds, and, you know, just showing glimpses, which for a lot of drivers coming into a season, the goal can be very much different, because, of course, you have a few drivers who are very experienced, very, very experienced when it comes to this level. A few, on the other hand, of course, just coming from F3. We've had lots of promotions from F3, and then you have a few drivers who've done about maybe a season now of F2 and are basically just coming straight back. So I guess for all of these drivers, we kind of have different expectations. They have different expectations, especially on this season of the game cycle, where we've already heard and a lot of people talking about in terms of drivers that we've had on the grid in their interviews basically saying how, you know, it'll be great to win it. It will be great, absolutely. You get to have your moment, and I guess a seasons of hard work does pay off. But they know that this will not be enough, and they're going to have to, you know, come back and do something a bit like maybe Angelo Di Ortenzio did a couple of seasons ago. He's our only two-time champion of PCF2, so they'll definitely have to try and prove themselves even further. But I guess this is a great stepping stone to get that first championship under their belt, and then whichever league, whatever they try to continue to impress some of the teams, it'll basically at least put them in a good position leaving this season.
Yeah, it certainly will. It certainly will indeed, as they put themselves in as good a stead as possible for F1 26, which of course will be the next season of Premier Sim Gaming Leagues, or PSGL. We can pretty much confirm that right about now, because, well, we're coming to the end of the game cycle. The rumoured release of F1 26, the DLC, was in April. Of course, that's not going to happen because of the F1 Sim Racing Championship, but hopefully after the F1 Sim Racing Championship is complete, we'll be able to learn more about what will be happening next time out. We've got our first runs from qualifying so far in, and it will be Steven Vaso who's at the top of the field. Very interesting to see Vaso right up there at the very top, competing with the likes of Shontos and Loureiro as well. Because he's not a driver you expect to be right up there at the very top of the field. You'd expect him to be more in towards the mid-pack, and in fact he finds himself 20th in the standings with just 3 points finishes and a peak of 8th this season. So to find him on pole position so far, it's good. It's a good sign for the Ukrainian, but again, it might not be necessarily representative because of what could happen later on in the session, where Loureiro and Shontos could close the gap, where somebody else could throw themselves into the mix, take the likes of a Cameron Dowds, or in fact a Tony Hitala.
Yeah, and a Tony Hietala who does not have a lap time on the board as of yet. Did go out on the circuit, maybe had an invalidation, maybe just wasn't happy and came back straight away into the pit lane. So that's the way he went. That's the way he went in terms of things on the previous run. He's going to be back out onto the circuit now, and we'll see what he is going to be able to do as we now take a look at Gabble making his way back out on towards the circuit, and they'll all be doing so now as we get run number 2 underway. A circuit specifically somewhere like Abu Dhabi. We see this across the entire campaign with all the circuits, but especially this type of circuit, it will really be ramping up the further this session continues to progress. So it is so important that these drivers are improving as the timer ticks down and we reach the latter parts of the session. It's always good to have a banker lap on the board, but you'll need to continue to deliver, or there's a high likelihood that someone else could pip you to those higher positions.
Yeah, it's just about minimising the risks you have to take towards the end of the session and maximising what you can do in the end of the session itself, because if you have that lap time on the board, you know you're not going to be qualifying down in last place, and then you can really maximise the opportunities and really try to take the risks to extend the circuit as much as you can. Maybe you will invalidate, but it's all ultimately worth it because you already have that time on the board. So it's low risk, low reward. But if you don't have that time, then it will be slightly higher risk and potentially could go wrong for yourself. Cameron Dowds does have a time on the board at the moment. It's a 21.253, and he was the first onto the next set of laps. And he is improving by a tenth and some change. So he'll hope to find his way into the 21.0s or maybe even the 20 flats, which would be very good indeed for himself to just set himself up for the final runs in this session, because with 6 minutes and 53 you'd expect that there's only going to be one more run in it, as they're all out and they will all be coming back in very soon. Cameron Dowds up to the line at 1 minute 21.058, so he will be completing that lap. It will be right up to the top of the field. That'll be Tamashko Kenny into 6th place, or not quite to the top of the field, but to the front row of the field and into the mix as well. Tamashko Kenny up to 6th place. His teammate Alexander Dimas coming around the final few corners. Anybody else going faster on their laps as they come around the final few corners? And in fact, Alexander Dimas will not be, as we'll switch our eyes to, I believe that's Sergio Sobrino coming to the line. He's up to 6th, just alongside his teammate Gabor Shontos.
Yep, so Ferrari 3rd row as it stands then at the moment. As we take a look at the Red Bull now of Imtiaz. Imtiaz, a driver hoping to continue to show steady improvement. Currently inside the top 10, comes over the line, goes to second place, misses out by a couple of thousandths in terms of pole position. So that is very much a great effort for him. Tony Hietala, first lap on the board, and it's quick enough for P7 for the driver, hoping to have the roll call of our champion by the end of today, as we have Loureiro now by 1,000th of a second. He's the next one to go top in the Williams car, and now he's the one for the rest of the drivers to try and beat. Scott Holmes is making his way round to the final few corners as well. Let's see what the Aston Martin man does.
Yeah, we'll see, and it's going to be a 21.194 for the Briton to get his first lap on the board into 12th place, and I believe that's the end of the second runs, and it will be Alejandro Loureiro at the very top of the field, but as you say, very, very close indeed. In fact, Stephen Vaso was down on his last lap by just under a tenth of a second. If he'd managed to find that exactly tenth of a second, he would have matched Alejandro Loureiro's time. So very, very interesting indeed, the fight at the very top of the field. You can see the top three drivers split by 6 thousandths of a second, an unbelievable gap between them. And of course the teams as well, because don't forget, they can work together in their teams. It wouldn't be esports teams that they can compete with, but for example the two Williams can work together. Loureiro and Dowd, Vaso and Largo can work together. So the two Williams being up there, the two V-Carbs being up there, that's going to help them significantly.
Yeah, definitely can. It'll be interesting to see how much Cameron Dowd is, of course, bonding and in communication with Loureiro, because of course it's usually inside Williams, Alves and Dowd, they're usually together. I mean, to be fair, they've had their fair share of contact as well, circling back all the way to Zandvoort, which was a very critical round of this championship, and it's gone a long way in removing some contenders from the fight and bringing Tony Hietala a step closer. That's what those last few rounds of this season have produced, and it's left us in this position where Hietala is possibly, quite literally, only maybe about 40 minutes just above that away from being your latest F2 champion. So it'll be interesting to see whether, first of all, how this final run will go. That'll be very important to see, but at the moment it's advantage Hietala, and everyone else has got to find ways to stop them. Looking at, of course, some of the rivals to Tony Hietala, you've got Cameron Dowd, who is realistically the only one that can actually deny with a good chance in this final round. But of course, you've got to think of Bohm and Sabrino as well, and Alves. They can mathematically do it, but they've got something against them. And actually, I should also add to Cameron Dowd what he did tell us last time out, in terms of he's actually not going to be here when it comes to Jeddah. So scrap anything I've said. In fact, realistically, Cameron Dowd does not really have a chance. All he has, realistically, to be quite honest with you, he needs to win today, get about 16 points. A pole point can also help as well, and outscore Tony Hietala in that way, and hope Hietala does not finish today or next week, and that's where he can find himself as a champion. But it is the biggest long shot, and you need a lot to go wrong for Tony Hietala.
Certainly do. Would certainly be a lot to go wrong for Tony Hietala in that case to find himself not the champion. So we'd be expecting to crown him at the end of today in the penultimate round of the season, meaning that we've had an entire game cycle without a season finale in F2. So we shall see. I'll take myself back to my favourite season finale and potentially league racing altogether, but especially PSGL, and it was PSGL F4 a couple of seasons ago. It was Max Ring, who's currently on the F3 broadcast.
Yes.
But it was Damien Curiel, and was it Tom Roberts who was fighting with him for the finale? Look at that memory, and we're watching on board with Tom Roberts right now. Almost like I've done that intentionally. But it was an absolutely incredible season finale, and it shows how far Roberts has come across the course of this game cycle. But that was a send in the final corner at Abu Dhabi that decided it, and it went down to the steward's room. As it turned out, the person who made the send did not win the title, but it was a desperation send, and it was absolute cinema. And hopefully we'll be getting the same thing here tonight with Cameron Dowd trying to keep his championship alive. Tom Roberts starting on his next lap, and he'll be the second one to do so. Jensen Rosen the first, as we've got our 16 drivers out there for their final runs in this qualifying session.
Here we go, under the lights. It is time for full attack from these PC F2 drivers. 16 in the field, all searching for the point available for pole position. Up by 500ths of a second in the first sector is Tom Roberts, circulating his way now out of turn 5 and down towards the 6th turn of the circuit as well now as he attacks this middle sector. Of course, the chicane, such a big part of it that he's heading down to now, and he's right now in 13th, so he'll be looking for a bit of a step forward and a major step forward for him as he'll want to get himself in contention. One of our race winners from this season, of course. 40 seconds to go. This is going to be a very interesting run all the way to the checkered flag to see who will be taking pole. Tom Roberts has lost 2 thousandths in that second sector.
Yeah, it's not gone well for Tom Roberts so far in this second sector, or in this lap, indeed, and I don't think he'll be improving, so we're going to have a look to see where everybody else is. Jensen Rosen, the first one up to the line, and in fact, he is going to be improving by a 10th and some change. He's gone up to 13th place, and he's gone ahead of Tom Roberts by a 10th of a second. What can Tom do as he comes up to the line around the final corner? He'll be the second one to set a lap time, and he will also not be checkered flag just yet. Roberts has found a 10th in the final sector, 0.171 as the checkered flag waves, and Alejandro Loureiro improves. He gets a 1 minute 20 on the board, and Steven Vaso doesn't. Race Imtiaz did not improve, did not lose time in the first 2 sectors. Tomasetto Elliott from absolutely nowhere up to the front row and up to the very top position. Race Imtiaz finds time in the final sector, but it's not going to be enough. What can Cameron Dowds do? Nothing. He's invalidated on that final run, and so he will not be going up. Tony Hitala lost some time in the final sector on his second run. Is he going to be able to do a little bit better in this third one? Yes, he is, but it's only up to 9th place, just inside the top 10. And Tamas Kokeni finds pole position once again from absolutely nowhere. Sergio Sobrino, 5th place for himself. Tudor Prescan down to 12th. Tom Roberts retires from the session, and Steven Vaso, of course, will not be improving. Shontos has invalidated, which means the last man on the field to set a time will be Scott Holmes, and well, he'll try to improve from 15th place, but Tamas Kokeni and Tomasetto Elliott coming from absolutely nowhere. Race Imtiaz as well, jumping up to the top 3, and that is an absolutely sensational end to that qualifying session. Where on earth did the top 3 come from?
Absolutely brilliant. Crazy margins once again at the end of a session. It's how we started the campaign. We still have one more qualifying to go after this, but it seems like it's how we're going to end it. Absolutely wild scenes here once again in a PCF2 session where drivers basically come out of nowhere, as you mentioned, and Tamas Kokeni with that secures his first pole position in the second tier in only his 9th start in PCF2. So congratulations to him, and he was able to do it in the end by 7 thousandths of a second.
Yeah, 7 thousandths of a second is the split between Tamas Kokeni and Elia Tomasetto at the very top of the field. Then it's only 300 between Kokeni and Imtiaz. And then only 2 thousandths between Imtiaz and Loureiro in the top 4. In fact, the top 7 are split by less than a 10th of a second, and Alexander Dimas just outside. Loureiro, Sobrino, Vaso, Largo, Dimas, Dowds and Tulki is your top 10. Hitala, Pressacan, Shontos, Roberts, Holmes and Rosen round out your field. And well, that is an absolutely incredible qualifying session, and well, hopefully that's a sign of things to come for the race.
Hopefully indeed. Hopefully we're going to have a very, very exciting contest coming our way where maybe we might be able to see a similar situation in terms of it being wide open and not knowing who is going to win as well. Of course, we've got that championship implication in there as well of possibly crowning a champion by the end of the day. But only time will tell, and we'll have to wait and see what is going to happen in terms of that. But just from a race point of view, it seems like we're going to have so many drivers in the mix, and possibly drivers that we don't even usually get to see or haven't seen when it comes to PCF2 in the past run near the front, have their opportunity, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what they're all able to bring to the table, basically, and show what they can do.
Definitely. Kokeni and Elia, not necessarily a front row that we were expecting this evening, but a front row we will embrace, and a front row we'll be very excited to see indeed as well we get ready to go racing here today in Abu Dhabi, where a champion could be crowned. I'd be expecting a one-stop, but without further ado, we're going to head to the 5 red lights here in Abu Dhabi. And the action gets underway now. Tamashiko Kenny gets off to a good start in the front row of the field. Tomasetto Elia is going to pull alongside and just behind into turn 1 as that's a send from Lorero to go alongside Race Imtiaz. Who's going to be ahead? Who's going to get the traction on the exit? It will be the AMR driver who goes up to 3rd place. In the meantime, Scott Holmes and Jensen Rosen, the 2 kick Saubers fighting in the background, and Tom Roberts and Tony Hitala fighting for 12th and 13th. Keep your eye on that championship leader who goes around the outside of turn number 5, but he's not going to be able to get the move done in the end. Race Imtiaz is going to defend ahead of Sergio Sobrino as there's already brake boards flying, already DRS boards flying as we head down towards turn number 6 and 7. Sobrino's going to have to fight, and he will be going for the fight to the outside line of Imtiaz into turn number 6 and out of turn number 7. I think he's going to be squeezed, and Sobrino takes the position. The 2 V-carb swapping as well. Tamashiko Kenny and Tomasetto Elia, perfect start for them. Tony Hitala holds 13th.
He holds 13th indeed. As we make our way now down towards the braking zone of turn number 9, of course, a fast flowing corner, and Gabble looking to try and go the long way round in his Ferrari car, but just slotting in behind at the moment. As we now make our way to the hotel section, Race Imtiaz looking in the mirrors, now looking to the side, now looking ahead at Vasso, who's been able to move up, and he'll now be trying to pressure the driver of Sergio Sobrino on the first tour of 29. So an interesting opening lap where Kokeni holds the lead, Elliot Tomasetto in second, and then we find ourselves with Alejandro Lorero in 3rd position. And now who is going to be looking to try and make the overtakes here on the second tour of the race as DRS it becomes available to the drivers?
Well, we'll have a look to see who's on the preferred tyres, and in fact Tomasetto Elia is on the set of the hard compound tyres as Alejandro Lorero looks to attack around the outside of 5. He can't quite do so in a little bit of a slide on the entry of the corner because he made that move last minute, and so he won't be able to make his way past. He'll get the DRS though on the exit of the corner, and he will get the slipstream as well, as a little bit of a particle made it look like that Tamashiko Kenny had just gone off, but no, Alejandro Lorero looks to the outside once again. Elia Tomasetto defends to the inside. This is going to be the way that this stint is defined for Lorero, I think, as Tudor Prescan in the meantime and Larry Tulke side by side. Tulke looks like he's going to try and squeeze out Prescan. It hasn't quite worked though. They remain alongside as they head down towards turn number 9, 2nd and 3rd side by side as well, and it looks like Lorero might have actually been able to get the move done in the end, but Prescan and Tulke still continuing to fight. In the end it will be Prescan who gets the grip and gets ahead. It's going to be Tomasetto, it's going to be Dowd, and then everybody 11th and down on a set of the hard compound tyres.
That's how the tyres look, as Joseph mentions to you, as we now come to the end of another lap of racing. So they all are going to now begin to get settled in. Slightly calmer start compared to, let's just say, what we've had in the last 2 races, where it has been absolutely wildness to start of PCF2 racing here on a Thursday, but they're all very much well behaved. We're getting to the end of a season, we're getting to the end of this part of the game cycle as well, before, of course, the DRC comes in the future. Sergio Sobrino coming in, possibly for an attack on those medium compound of tyres into turn 5 on Elliot Tomasetto, but just slotting in behind. And now, down the straight, it's all about utilising a bit of a battery in a DRS train, and you can see the Ferrari driver is trying to do so, jumping on board, going to the inside of turn number 6. Turn number 7 is next up. Can Sergio Sobrino exit ahead? When he stands on the power, he will find himself in 3rd, and Avasso's going to have an opportunity down towards turn number 9.
Yeah, down towards turn 9, he's going to try and give it a go. Is Stephen Vaso going to be able to pull alongside? Yes, he is, and he's going to take the outside line into turn 9, but he's going to go too deep. Going to wash himself too wide, and the Alpine holds onto the position. But it looks as though Stephen Vaso is going to try and hold onto the track position there. But the fact that he tried to hold onto the track position meant that he was on the curbing, which meant that he wouldn't have been able to make his way past with the traction that he got off of the corner, but still continuing to pressure on the back of Tomasetto Elia, who is losing positions now. The defence that he's trying to put on is not quite strong enough, but you'd be expecting that with a DRS as Stephen Vaso makes his way through. You'd be expecting Elia Tomasetto to lose some positions through the course of this stint, just because of the fact that he is on those tyres. Huge slide from Tomasetto into the first corner. That will put the pressure on him from Imtiaz as they head out of the exit of 5 and towards the next DRS zone.
It absolutely will. Here we go then, into the braking zone of 5, as you mentioned. Are about to now rotate our way by and make our way to another overtaking opportunity for the drivers. If you are feeling a bit desperate, especially if you are in the mid-pack, just trying to make one extra move here or there. And you can see Imtiaz definitely getting close to that, having a look as well, but you might just have to look directly in behind as Alexander Dimas sends it late on the brakes, runs into the back of Imtiaz, all the while trying to fight away with Francesco Largo, who was in the middle of that, and luckily they all did make the exit. But as we focus on the Kicksauer driver, trying to get closer, can he now pick a route on the outside line? It will always be Brave, and he won't be able to get there. Further up the road though, that'll be Imtiaz going up the inside, and he's now in P5. Elliot Tomasetto in 6th, who drops down on those hard compound of tyres.
Yeah, he does, and Cameron Dowd's trying to fight with Tudor Pressacan on the inside line, trying to make the move into Ronha corner, but he can't quite make it, and he'll be around the outside, heading through the turn number 14, 15 and 16 complex. Late lunge into the final corner on the racetrack from Dowds to try and get through on Pressacan. Is that a wheel hook? Is that contact between himself and the Haas driver? That means Larry Tulke can pull alongside and sweep his way through on the two of them. Great move, great reactions from the McLaren to make his way past and up into 9th place. In the meantime, Tony Hitala struggling to make an impression here. Can't even get past Tom Roberts, who's on the same tyres. Dowds, knowing that he needs to make those moves, is trying to, as Roberts around the outside of Pressacan. Sir Pressacan shouldn't really be fading here, I don't imagine, with the tyres. But of course, he's just trying to rebuild that momentum up after the fighting that he had with Cameron Dowds. And it's just going to be difficult, I think, to keep that fight on. Inside line for Tom Roberts as they head into turns 6 and 7. And, wow, Roberts is going to try to open himself up on the corner exit as much as possible. Pressacan's going to try and squeeze him as much as possible. And in the end, they will continue locked in battle onto the exit of the corner once again. Nobody breaking DRS just yet. Nobody blinking so far in this race. And Tony Hitala might have gained a position on Pressacan, who's going to try to defend the position from the Red Bull. He's given up on the move from the Mercedes. And in the end, he's able to brutishly keep his position ahead of the Red Bull.
Absolutely. Hitala still having a little look, just looming large in the mirrors at the moment, but he finds himself in a very rare, calm, relaxed position. But that's calm until you get something that can change up this championship in a big way, and you get some other contenders joining the party, because he knows that Cameron Dowds will not be much of a threat due to what's happening, of course, with his college event, which is why he's missing the final race. So he'll not really see Dowds as much of a factor, but you know, if Hitala's not scoring and then you are getting someone else, like basically a driver like of course Sergio Sabrino, being able to score some good points, then there could be an opportunity. Now, talking about Hitala, he's still on the attack and still trying to maximize here today, so he can possibly pick up a couple of those points as they make their way down the straight. And Tony Hitala looking to try and get past, and he's ahead of the Ferrari, he's ahead of Pressacan into the braking zone. Imtiaz is getting past Elliot Tomasetto, and we're getting to plenty of overtakes down in this middle sector of the lap. So we are going to find ourselves with Imtiaz just being ahead of Elliot Tomasetto, who will try and fight back. That's further up the road. What you're focusing on at the moment is going to be Gavel just staying ahead of Pressacan. Scott Holmes looking for the move around the outside, and that would be Brave as we cut back over to the Aston Martin driver, braving it the long way round. He's not over the exit curb like we've seen a few others. He's turned it into the inside line, and Scott Holmes moves up to 14th place.
Certainly does, as Cameron Dowds is on the outside of Alexander Dimas, gets that move done very nice and cleanly and moves up to 9th place. And in the meantime, the scrapping further up the order was continuing on, was lighting up as well as they continue that fight on to what will be lap number 7 of this 29 lap race. And they're going to start to think about their tyre strategy. What should they commit to? Will it be the hards? Will it be the mediums for the second stint? Of course, because the two-stop strategy is going to be viable here today. It's one that's commonly used, and it's basically a backup strategy, I think, for those who maybe started further back in the order. And that's why those drivers that are on the hards have the most flexibility of all, because they know that they can commit to that two-stop strategy as well. Cameron Dowds and Francesco Largo fighting as the Scotsman cannot avoid any of these fights, cannot avoid any of the action, will continue his fight onwards. Tom Roberts having a go at the back of Alexander Dimas and will be alongside. Might be another move into what will be turn number 6. And yes, he gets it done in the end. A little bit of contact between the two, I believe, but in the end, he just had the overspeed to run ahead and gain that position up. It's lap number 7 of 29. And they're going to start to think about pit stops very, very shortly indeed. I think pit window for the two-stop strategy is open now. I think the pit window for the one-stop, for the medium runners at least, is going to be in just a couple of laps' time. I reckon lap 10 will be the earliest that they'll start to consider it.
Out ahead of Imtiaz, very close as they make their way through turn number 9, but they both luckily are able to continue on. Directly behind that, Roberts and Largo having their own little scrap as well. Resolved now, of course, as we enter this third part of the lap, and very nearly onto another tour of this race. Lap number 8 we will go on to. Kokeni, Lavero and Sabrino still your order at the front in terms of the top 3. Elliot Tomasetto is the driver though that you are focusing on, inching a bit closer to possibly pushing those hard compound of tyres ahead now of some of those drivers in front. So we'll keep an eye on this as he gets very much tucked up behind the rear wing of that Racing Bulls car of Stephen Russo, and now it's going to be interesting to see whether the Alpine driver decides to make the move down this straight or elects for something different coming, of course, in the near future. Only lap 8 out of 29, so you're considering a lot of things as Lavero also gets very close to our leader. Talking about getting close, that's Tony Hietala getting himself to a pinch point, getting himself to contact with Tom Roberts, and that is going to be the championship leader and possibly the soon-to-become champion in the wall along with Roberts, and it's going to cause the safety car in an incident that takes them both to a stationary moment, and it's given them damage. Roberts has a penalty, and that's just drama out there on the circuit.
Absolute cinema with our championship leader and Tom Roberts here in Abu Dhabi, and you'd think those medium compound tyre runners will be pitting under this safety car, maybe even the hard runners, but that is a huge moment, and well, everybody will be having opinions on that one, I am sure. But lap number 8 of this race, we have a safety car, which is not something we say too often here in PSGL F2, and we'll be seeing all of the medium runners at the front at least running in. I think everybody is going to be running in as Cameron Dowds has a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings. That will be removed because of the fact that, of course, his third warning was picked up as he was entering the pit lane. So he should be fine in terms of getting that penalty removed, but of course he has to be very careful throughout the rest of this race. Hard compound tyres being scrambled on for the majority of the drivers, however mediums for Tomasetto Elia and for Larry Tulke and for Scott Holmes as well, and Jensen Rosen really shows that it's a massive split in the field.
Really does. Yeah, as you say, it's going to have to now be cautious driving by Cameron Dowds. Of course, you'll need to show his race director later on to the stewards, and I'm sure Krypton will be very much waiting to see what's going to happen in terms of steward inquiries. Well, he was given a rare week off by PCF2 last time. I think he kind of needed it after the amount of steward reports, which have, in recent time, decided race victories, and especially I'm thinking of Zandvoort, which I know you were in the commentary box with me that day. Chaotic races like that, we've had a few of them which have involved the stewards, let's just say, and well, today could very much be another one on the evidence of what we've seen so far and what we have to come in the remaining laps of this one.
You know how much I like my foreign sayings at the moment, and that would be another one. Deja vu as we head through what will be the penultimate round of this PCF2 season. And of course, deja vu as well, with Tom Roberts being involved in a fight at the very top of the field. Well, with people at the very top of the field, at the very least. And, well, of course, he's not the one fighting for the championship, but still, I mentioned that F4 finale earlier on. And, well, it rings true still. I'd be interested to see if Elliot Tomasetto down to Cameron Dowds come into the pits again and make the switch onto a set of another hard compound set of tyres. I wouldn't be surprised, because they're just trying to get rid of those tyres that they're on at the moment. But no, they're continuing on, apart from Tudor Pressacan, who's changed his mind, and that's disappointing, I think, from the Haas. Just because he's going to have to drop all the way down the field for no real benefit.
Yeah, I guess he's just really going to now think about this entire second half of the race, so we'll see. So he now decides to come in, and will very much just try to be on a level playing field, I guess, with everyone else now on that hard compound of tyre. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what they do with the strategies now at the moment. As you say, it's not often that we're able to say that we've got a safety car in an F2 race, but yes, a bit of a unusual type of accident, which, as you say, will be getting a lot of people talking, I'm sure, about what we've seen on the circuit, but what it has done, it has caused a safety car. And I guess in an F2 race, specifically and in PSGL as a whole, you can really get safety cars at unexpected moments. So I'm sure the engineers, along with the drivers, will all be working to just make their way through this situation in the best way possible and to try and get the best result by the end of 29 laps here in Abu Dhabi.
I would have definitely boxed. I would have definitely boxed under that safety car. I would have started on the mediums most likely if I was one of the drivers inside the top 10. If you're outside of the top 10, you kind of take a relaxed approach to the race, where you kind of go, well, we'll just see what happens. But if you're in the top 10, you feel the pressure just that little bit more. And so they will have just been wanting to fight. I think Tomasetto Ellio's strategy has been really interesting. I also don't think it's paid off because of the lack of commitment to it under the safety car. Had he come in again for a set of the hards, I think that would have been a true commitment. Whether it would have paid off or not is an entirely different question, but it would have been a massive commitment to the strategy that he chose. And sometimes that's what you need. Sometimes you need a little bit of commitment. And hey, if you get it wrong, you get it wrong. That's life. And well, it can be a big learning experience for everybody at the team behind the scenes, whether they get it right or wrong. And I mean, they've gone for a gamble. It was always going to be a gamble whether he came into the pit lane or not, or whatever happened, because of the fact that he gambled at the start of the race. So whatever will happen, it's a true learning experience, not just for himself and his team, but for everybody who's doing races around Abu Dhabi in the future, of course, because this won't be the last time that a league races around Abu Dhabi. And, well, they will take the learnings from the top drivers in the world, which is, of course, what we have on our hands here. PSGL F2 is the step down from the F1 Sim Racing Championship, pretty much. And actually, Gabo Santos, who would be racing in the F1 Sim Racing Championship, is here today, as, well, of course, he is in a part of the Haas outfit this season. So it's very interesting to see. We're on lap 11 of 29, and, well, Gabo Santos leads the race, the only driver not to come into the pit lane.
He does indeed. That's how the race lies at the moment. In front of us, the penultimate round of the season and of this part of the game cycle as a whole, because of course, as we've already talked about, we only do get one. We only do get 3 seasons on one part of game cycle. Of course, we'll be continuing on this game specifically because of the DLC coming. But yes, this is the final one of this part of what we're used to now. Safety cars ending. You've just seen that message come on the top of screen. So we are going to be getting ready to go back to the green flags here in Abu Dhabi, and we'll let the drivers loose once again and see what they can provide us. Hopefully a very exciting race, which I'm sure will have plenty of elements at play as well.
I'm sure we very much will. It'll be Gabo Santos leading us onto it with a worn set of the hard compound tyres. Those on the mediums, Sir Elia Tomasetto, Larry Tulkey, Scott Holmes, Cameron Dowds really need to push at the start of this stint to make that switch worth it. And those on the hards right behind Gabo Santos need to defend for their lives while also making it past the Ferrari. We're going to get back to green flag racing. Gabo Santos is going to send us off ridiculously early, but he's going to have a slide out of the final corner, which makes it not quite worth it for the Ferrari. So he's going to come under pressure into the first corner, I would imagine, by Tamas Kokeni. Looking further down, Stephen Beso was able to get close to the back of Sergio Sabrino, not close enough to fight. Tony Hitala makes his way through on to the press account, up into 14th place. Pretty uneventful safety car restart, all things considered, but everybody locked in battle, and this has really woken them up, I'd imagine, as, well, we will be getting those close fights later on. Cameron Dowds and Scott Holmes, big send from Cameron Dowds on the back of the Aston Martin, and these two will be fighting alongside as they head down towards turn 6 and 7. They will be completely locked in terms of straight line speed. Similar setups, I'd imagine, but having a look at the fight for the race lead, Tamas Kokeni trying to go around the outside of Gabo Santos. Is he going to be able to make the move on the Ferrari? Yes, he is. He gains a position. Race Imtiaz gains a position on Jensen Rosen, but Rosen fights back into turns 6 and out of turn number 7. It will be remaining alongside, of course, no DRS for all these drivers on the first lap back to green flag racing, and so it will just be down setups, and it looks as though Jensen Rosen's straight line speed a little bit better than Imtiaz, which means Imtiaz will be better in the corners, which allows him to pull alongside heading through this final sector. This will be absolutely crucial for the Red Bull, as he might be able to make a move on two, but Jensen Rosen catches Francesco Largo unawares, pulls alongside him, and will be continuing within that fight around the final few corners of this racetrack. Francesco Largo defends the position in the end, but it's a scary moment, and Cameron Dowds into the final corner. He's gained 2 positions off of this safety car restart, up to 7th.
Absolutely. Well, we had to wait for it to get a little bit frenetic. It did towards the end of the lap. And of course, when we got towards those straights, we're about to make our way back towards those straights now as well, which I'm sure is going to see Loureiro put a bit of pressure and put an attack to Gabor, who's right now running in 2nd place, because of course they've got to try and stick with Tamas Kokeni, as of course Gabor continues to go round, and those drivers will now look to try and basically remove the barrier that the Ferrari is proving to be at the moment. So that'll be one of the moves that'll be taking place down the straight to the inside line into the braking zone of turn 6. The car will be slowed down for Loureiro, and that will be now P2 directly behind Tamas Kokeni, and he'll have DRS as well to very much keep himself within range of the Kick Sauber driver. Sergio Sabrino is also now going to be having his chance to possibly try an attack, going for it around the outside into turn number 9, but just backing out for the moment as well in that scrap as they make their way through. But yes, Gabor's going to continue fading down, and I'm sure the drivers will continue to attack him, as Sergio Sabrino proves to be doing exactly that with the inside line now. Grip will always favour him, and he's through and up to P3.
Sabrino up through his teammates, and Steven Vaso looking to try and do the same thing into the final corner. Maybe he's going to try and send it, or he's just going to wait behind. No, he is going to send it into the final corner. Is Vaso, and he will be alongside Gabor Shontos as they exit out of the final corner. Turn number 15 and down towards the straight once again. Fastest lap of the race from Tony Hitala as Tomasetto Elia becomes the latest driver past the Hungarian and up into the top 5. But Tony Hitala 11th place at the moment, and well, continuing to try and make his way through as he makes the most of those medium compounded tyres. Speaking of making the most of the mediums, Larry Tulke, Gabor Shontos tried to defend from the fin, but Tulke makes his way through anyway, up into 6th place, and well, he's it's not proving to be a strategy that works out here, staying on the hard compound tyres. Yes, he did have the track position, but, I mean, it didn't last for very long, really, as when we get our first burst of DRS back in our green flag racing stint. And is that a move further back from Tony Hitala on the back of Francesco Largo? He's giving it a go, and slightly further ahead, there's a car off the track. That will be Cameron Dowds, who gets another time penalty for exceeding track limits. And so he is very much struggling here today, as Hitala does make his way past Largo, and that'll be a late send from Dowds on the back of Gabor Shontos. I think it'll be interesting to watch the Scotsman throughout the rest of the race. Of course, you don't have the scenario where you are worried about fighting for that track position anymore, because you know that you've got that penalty coming for you post-race. So he might get a little bit more aggressive, Mike Cameron Dowds, and so it will be very interesting to see the Williams later on in this race as we're about to cross over the halfway point.
Absolutely, about to cross over the halfway point, as you mentioned, as we make our way by and come over the line once again. Lap number 15 we go on to, so past half race distance now at this point, and it is Elia Tomasetto who we are focusing in on, who is right now at the moment the highest driver, who did decide to basically continue on with those medium compound of tyres after they made the pit stop under the safety car. And now Larry Tulke is another one of those, trying to make the move around the outside of turn number 5. Now we'll try to turn it into a drag race between the pair of them, getting super tight as they make their way onto the straight, and it is going to be McLaren versus Alpine, heading towards the 6th turn of the circuit. Late on the brakes for Elia Tomasetto. That'll be close between himself and Vaso at the same time. Vaso just moves ahead. There's the McLaren. You can see it to the side momentarily, the right-hand side, and it is Larry Tulke exiting ahead. But we mentioned about Cameron Dowds. Joseph just brought up the point about, with those penalties now being a factor for him, is he going to go more aggressive to the outside of turn number 9? And the driver, who is very much now just looking to try and end this season on a high for himself, is very much on the aggressive, on the inside line now, heading through the hotel section. Can he fight his way by? Not wanting to give this one up one bit, still keeping his foot in as we make our way through to the final few corners, and you can see that he's going to get the inside line for the next 2 corners on the circuit. And finally the move happens for Cameron Dowds, P6 books now as we head on to lap number 16.
Yeah, he really worked hard for that move. Tomasetto Elia made him work hard for that move, and so he moves up to second place in the medium compound tyre runner stint. And well, Larry Tulke leads it at the moment, looking on the back of Stephen Bay. So is there going to be a move on soon for the McLaren? He certainly looks like he wants to go for it very shortly, and he's in a very good position to do so indeed, because of the fact that he is right in behind with the momentum. There's of course not yellow flags out on the circuit, because that will just be a continuous thing that it will demonstrate on the screen, as well potentially there'll be a move further up the order. Sabrino may be looking to get past Loureiro, or maybe looking to try and defend us. In fact, Sabrino's teammate Gabo Shontos trying to come back and fight with Jensen Rosen to the inside, switching to the outside for turn number 6 and then out of turn 7. He will remain alongside. DRS will be benefiting both of them, so it'll be a net neutral for the two of them as they head down. And in the end, Tudor Presscam basically bump drafts his way past Jensen Rosen and helps Gabo Shontos on his way as well. But it might open the door once again for Rosen. In the end, not quite so on Presscam, but Shontos, he's still able to keep alongside with Rosen with a late lunge, but he can't quite decide. He was a little bit too indecisive, backed out, and in the end, stays in 13th.
Yep, stays in 13th, as you mentioned. So it's been the drivers very much now utilising these laps after the restart to try and make some very important progress as well. And as they now take over for lap number 17, we're seeing possibly another move made. Imtiaz, well, it started off as such a great day. Right now he's having to fight outside the points. He's to the inside line of Rosen, and Rosen demoted down to P14 as Imtiaz finds himself moving up, and he'll definitely be another one who will surely be a bit more aggressive now from this point onwards, because he has seen the race fade away to some degree for himself, unfortunately. But we'll see what he'll be able to do as Holmes gets past Largo. Meanwhile, at the front of the field, it seems like we're going to get a change of lead and a new race leader, because the man you're looking at now at the front, Alejandro Loureiro, takes P1, and Thomas Kokeni in behind in second place now, but of course will now be the one getting the DRS across the Yas Marina circuit. Does he try and go possibly straight back for the lead around the outside, throws the car in, exits in front, and Loureiro's lead did not last for long, but these two will continue their ding-dong all the way, hopefully till the end, for all of us to enjoy.
Hopefully so. And well, Alejandro Loureiro, another one who's not fussed about anything championship-wise. Of course, he's only raced once this season, picked up a podium from it, so he's going to hope to capitalise on that one. And well, he's going to try and race with no risks at all, or not no risk. He's not going to worry about anything, so nothing will be perceived as a risk, because a risk to what for Alejandro Loureiro? Yes, the race, that's it, as Gabo Shontos looks like he might be out of this race, unfortunately, as well, into the box he comes. 3-second time penalty, and no, I don't think he's actually retiring. The Hungarian looks like he might just be switching onto a set of the medium compounder tyres to go for the final 11 laps of this 29-lap race. Kokeni's built up a gap to Loureiro, though, 0.8 of a second between the top two, and well, that will get cut down, and this is a good indication of how much the DRS straight can close you in, as Imtiaz and Holmes side by side for 11th and 12th, and in the end, Holmes not quite with the overspeed, wants to pick it up with the DRS.
Wants to indeed, as we flick it down to the straight and to the chicane of turn 6 and 7 as they make their way now towards 9, nearer to the front of the field. But it's going to be, I think, now a race where we have drivers in specific positions, and they've got to now try and basically improve from those, because they're all kind of set now in these places. We had a safety car period which very much resetted things, and then everyone's had to really go from there, and it's now all about just trying to make your way right till the end, try and make some overtakes, which is what we're seeing being done there further back from Alexander Dimas up against Scott Holmes. That'll be a battle that will continue, and the inside line momentarily is going to go towards Scott Holmes, but Alexander Dimas will still fight it, and this has gone all the way through this final sector, and it's resolved out of the final corner with Dimas taking the advantage as Tony Hietala comes into pit.
Yeah, Hietala into the box, and we'll see what the Finn decides to go on to, as that was telemetry, my bad. He is going to switch onto a set of the mediums, which makes sense at this point in the race, and we'll be continuing on towards the end of this race on the same set of medium compounder tyres, as he will be fighting with Gabo Shontos on the exit of the corner. Good experience for those two drivers at the very back of this field. And, well, this is kind of a perfect scenario for anybody hoping to keep the championship, at least mathematically, alive into the final race. Although I do think that for himself, it is going to be all said and done right at the very top of this championship field. And then we'll get the opportunity to see a champion crowned here today, which will be very, very fun to see, but also at the same time, not necessarily exactly what we would want to see, because it will be the final round of the season will just be a dead rubber, which also at the same time can bring its benefits. Contact between Tomasetto Elliott and Cameron Dowds, which sees Dowds run wide, which sees Elliott Tomasetto pushed wider, and we'll see also the Italian pick up a 3-second time penalty in the meantime. Dowds 1.6 off the back of Larry Tulke and Stephen Bay, so they're having a fight all of their own, as into the box comes Elliott, into the box comes Tulke, into the box comes Dowds. They all committed to a 2-stop. And, well, for Cameron Dowds, it's a 10-second time penalty that he will be very disappointed to have. And, well, potentially he'll have to serve.
Absolutely. So, there we go then. More things happening now in terms of the pit lane. Still going on the circuit as you see the gap come down to 0.2 of a second. And we are going to be blasting down towards turn 6 with another change of lead as Loureiro moves over to the racing line in P1. And this is going to be, I think, a fight that very much could go towards those latter stages. We've got two great drivers who've demonstrated some great pace so far today, of course, when it came to qualifying, so far in the race at the same time. And then they've got Sergio Sabrino, who I'm sure will be looking to pick up the pieces if anything does happen ahead. So I think we've got a great trio that are very much trying to run away with it. Rasso just about hanging on to the DRS, but as we begin to make our way towards the final stages, we'll see what happens.
We certainly will. They're going to start to think about the final lap and their approach to it now, as well, they'll start to save up the telemetry, start to save up the ERS and everything along those sorts of lines towards the end of the race, to start to think about the tyre wear and, well, everything that comes with that, as 21 of 29 have been completed, which means we're going to have the final 9 laps of this race. Scott Holmes into the box for the final time, and, well, we'll see whether everybody else is going to come in. I'd imagine we won't be seeing any of those who come into the pits in again, and I actually don't think we'll be seeing any of the hard compound tyre runners. So what this has turned into is a fantastic chase. Tony Hitala, the difference between himself and Alexander Dimas is 11.8 seconds. The pace on the last lap, the difference between the two, is going to be a grand total of 1.6 between the driver in 9th and the driver in 10th. So there's opportunities for those medium tyre runners to come into it late on if they can time it right.
Absolutely. So if they can time it right, it might go in that specific way. So we'll wait and see how that is going to unfold as we now take a look at another one of our trains that we have that has developed. Pressacan leading Largo, leading Imtiaz, leading Roberts, and then headed by Alexander Dimas, currently in 9th. Of course, a driver who has had some prowess in the lower tiers in the past few seasons of PSGL. Was very much a great contender when it came to F4, now finding himself in F2, and it's going to be fascinating, I think, in the future, seeing the next few seasons of him, because of course he's got this season now to basically get settled in, has had a few glimpses here and there, but we'll see what he'll be able to do once we expand, basically, and I think when he makes his way onto the new DLC and what he can basically do from there, as with every single driver, because we very much could see a few differences and a bit of a shake-up in the order, because of course the drivers may feel also a little bit more motivated naturally as well.
Yeah, they certainly will, and they'll be hoping that their teammates will be helping them along in trying to understand the new game. Of course, it's going to be a very, very interesting one in terms of the times of league racing. We've never, ever had a game where we've cycled it for 2 game cycles, not in the competitive scene at the very least. And so it will be very fascinating to see how much they change the game as well, going from 25 to 26. Will it be a completely new handling model? Will it be a completely new game? I'd imagine not, because they're selling it on the same thing, but they need to fix the problems that they have on it, otherwise nobody will buy it. That's why they had to create a DLC in the first place. And so it's fascinating times in terms of the F1 game in general, and well, we'll see between now and next season what will occur. We'll have new competitors rising to the fore, of course. We've seen a number of new drivers making their name known, and our race leader is one of them, Alejandro Loureiro, who's very much become one of the new contenders throughout the course of this game, of course, coming into it as the mysterious Alex Loafer, as I just alluded to earlier. And he came in, he was very quick on time trial, and then everyone went, well, he can't do it in a race. And now he's very much learnt how to do it in a race. And, well, he could be on for his first victory in PSGL F2.
Yeah, and it will only be on start number 5. Had a few races last season where he came in that situation. Then, from what I believe, he didn't actually sign up, or he didn't do something correctly in a sign-up. So he wasn't able to be here from the start, but then a mid-season sign-up presented another chance. That's when I think he got himself in, and, you know, it's actually led to a lot of great things. Of course, a pole position. He's also had a podium in his time in those 4 starts of PCF2, trying to make it 2 today. So let's see what's going to happen when it comes to that. Thomas Kokeni back over to the lead on the circuit. That's at the front of the field. Lager is getting past Presakan for P5 as that train also switches positions, and Imtiaz and Roberts are all close together in that fight as well. And we're, of course, just watching just ahead of Cameron Dowds right now. Tony Hietala move up to 10th and get past Lari Tulki at the same time.
Yes, we are, and we're also watching Scott Holmes make his way past his teammate, of course, both of them off of the train. Elio Tomasetto as well, doing the same thing, so it's unfortunate there. And the strategy very much hasn't paid off for the Thomas Enger Sim Racing driver, who hope to come back and do a little bit better next time out. Sergio Sabrino, 3/10 off of the back of Alejandro Loureiro, cutting it down to 2.5 into the first corner, but on the exit it will be a little bit bigger, the difference between the two, and it will just be up and down and all around between these drivers as they continue on in this race. Scott Holmes with the fastest lap as he tries to catch up to the DRS of the Alpine, and he may well be able to do so and rope him into a 3-car battle for 14th place. But Tony Hietala, 8.5 off of the back of Alexander Dimas, and the chase doesn't appear to be off anytime soon between those drivers, as Loureiro tries to get a little bit of clean air for himself, which opens the door for Sergio Sabrino to not make his way through in the end, and might open the door for Stephen Vaso on the exit on Sabrino.
Plenty beginning to take place and plenty going on, where we're basically now looking at this point to see who is making the overtake where, because they're all coming in different places at different times as we begin to now make our way in towards the final stages of this race. So it is very much going to be on, and as Tony Hietala gets past Lari Tulki, well, of course, you know, while it very much looks set that the championship is going to be pretty much done, it won't officially be done until next week as it stands, because even if we know that Cameron Dowds most likely will not be here, there's always chances that the college event could get cancelled or whatever's happening. Plans can change, and he could randomly end up turning up. So the points, it will still mathematically be possible, and there still could be an opportunity come the final race of the season. So Tony Hietala will probably want to gain a few more places if he wants to absolutely seal it all here today. But right now, 10th will not be enough for him, unfortunately, even with Cameron Dowds outside those points-paying positions.
Yeah, 10th won't suffice, and it hasn't been great for the two highest up in the championship points here today. So they'll be naturally a little bit disappointed with the way their race has gone. Hietala, because of course this could have been the race where he sealed his championship, and Cameron Dowds because of the fact that of course this will be his final race of the season and the game cycle as well. So of course both wanting to end it off on a high. One will be coming back next week, one will be coming back next season and on next year's game, and hoping something just that little bit better to you know, to take him over the line, because Cameron Dowds, of course, coming so close. You'd imagine that very soon he'll have PSGL title winner next to his name.
Absolutely. Now, in terms of, this is where we start looking at outsider chances. And I'm thinking of Sergio Sabrino, 27 points off when it comes to the championship. If he can go and basically get a few extra points, get 6 extra points to what he's getting right now, he could put himself with an opportunity where if Tony Hietala has a similar day to what he's had today, basically in a week's time, and Sergio Sabrino is running in those high positions, this could give him a chance, and it could absolutely be game on So even if he gains one more position, he'll put him within the points gap. So in terms of even in our head, we might actually have a possible mathematical championship heading down towards the final race. So it's still all to play for, and it's going to be interesting to see what's going to happen between it all. As now, Loureiro makes his way up the inside line. Kokeni's going to try, send the car in, keep it in the lead for the moment. But Sabrino's really been waiting, hasn't he, for quite a while. So can he have something to do in this championship battle late on as well? We'll have to wait and see in terms of that. For the moment, it'll be Loureiro and Kokeni continuously fighting in towards turn 9. This is where the Williams driver is now trying to keep their foot in the long way round. It'll turn into the inside for the next few corners, and Loureiro now takes the advantage as we're about to head on to the final 3 laps of the race.
Yeah, final 3 laps of the race indeed is what we'll be heading on to. And, well, we've got a very, very good 4-car fight, a very talented 4-car fight at the very top of the field to contend with. Loureiro, Kokeni and Sergio Sabrino starting 4th, 1st, 5th and 6th respectively are going to be trying to fight it out. And, of course, it's Stephen Vaso in that 4th place that started 6th. We weren't expecting Tamas Kokeni at the very top of the field. We weren't expecting the person who was alongside him, Elia Tomasetto, who unfortunately has dropped back into the order, as has Reece Imtiaz, who was in 3rd place. But it's been sensational, hasn't it, to watch Tamas Kokeni manage to keep up that pace, and he could be a talent to keep an eye out for across the next couple of game cycles as he tries to seal what could be his first victory here today.
Absolutely. He could very much try and get the job done. The gap's now extended to 7/10, so I'm sure Kokeni will want to try and just reel that back in a little bit. Just make sure he's got himself a realistic opportunity come the final lap of the race. He'll want more than a realistic opportunity. He'll want it all. He'll absolutely want only about a 10th or 2 of a gap heading onto the straight and an easy pass with DRS. But, you know, he's got to make sure that he's got some working room. So he can't let it stretch to outside 1 second. And that's going to be very important. We're about to actually head on to now the final lap of the race soon after the penultimate one, so it will be very interesting now the next 2 laps in terms of where they're going to position the cars, how it's going to play out in terms of that, who's going to be the leader heading on to what, and it's now all time for the games to play out and for us to try and crown out a winner, which right now 4 cars are in the train, and knowing how PCF2 has been all over the seasons and also this season especially, it really could be anyone's game.
F1 25 has been a game cycle full of ups and downs. It really, really has. And, well, we'll be getting the opportunity to call at the very end of F1 25 this evening. Of course, we started off our F1 25 experience with not only PCF2 but also PCF1, and in F2, which is the more relevant one for ourselves, it was Angelo D'Ortenzio who was able to take the title away from Jan Halliday, who is of course an active esports driver now. Season 41 though, we saw Luca Rapassa take the title by a decent margin ahead of Tony Hietala and Leo Lund. But this season has seen a new competitor rise to the fore, of course, as, well, Cameron Dowd's fighting with Larry Tulkey down in 11th place. He's been another one who's made his name known in season 42, but it has been Tony Hietala, who has had 3 wins across the course of the season, who looks to pick up his 4th one and become, from the nearly man last time out, he was runner-up last season, to becoming the champion here today. We've had 3 seasons across the course of this game cycle, all very dramatic, all have been a pleasure to watch, to commentate, and all these sorts of things. To even be involved in the Premier Sim Gaming Leagues across the course of it has been a massive honour. And now we head on to what will be the final lap of the race, and Alejandro Loureiro trying to hold on ahead of Tamas Kokeni. 4 tenths between the 2 drivers as Loureiro runs wide out of the first corner, but he hasn't lost too much time, so I think that might have been a desync issue from my end, and Loureiro holds on 6.6 tenths ahead.
Absolutely. Elia Tomasetto is out of the race. Well, it's the penultimate race of the season here, and we're very nearly getting to the end of F1 25. The championship is going to mathematically go down to the final race, it seems, but we're all very much looking forward to seeing who will come across the line first. Can Sergio Sabrino try and do his championship hopes some good? Very deep on the brakes for Tamas Kokeni, getting as close as possible to Alejandro Loureiro, who is going to be looking to try and hang on. Kokeni now, this is the last opportunity that he'll have. He'll really have to deploy all the battery he's got, with DRS enabled as well. Does the the kick sour driver have an opportunity. Loureiro parking it in the right places. It was a sniff of a chance. It wasn't a full chance though for Kokeni, who did a brilliant job to get that car on pole position, but it might just be Alejandro Loureiro who's going to hang on. Kokeni was very nearly running into the back. He's very much pushing him through the hotel section. He's so close, as Sergio Sabrina might even get an opportunity coming through to the final few corners. Can he send a late for his championship hope? It's going to be Alejandro Loureiro though, who will come out of the final corner and will come across the line to win for the first time in PCF2 on only start number 5. Kokeni's in second, and Sergio Sabrino reduces the gap from 27 points to 17 as he sees the flag in third. Then it's Masso and Largo, and well, Tony Hietala may just have had one hand now on the championship trophy. Nothing's official, but it seems like that he's going to be getting himself a step closer, and it will take quite some miracles for him to be denied in any way come next week.
Yes, I'd imagine it'd be very, very difficult indeed to look past him for this race and for the championship, and for this race, of course, meaning next time out. Driver of the day, Tudor Pressacan, according to the gamers. He had the most overtakes. Cleanest driver, Sergio Sabrino. Fastest lap, Scott Holmes. Race winner, Alejandro Loureiro, who took the victory ahead of Tamas Kokeni in second. Sergio Sabrino making it a double Spanish podium, but Kokeni splitting the two. Then Steven Beso in fourth place, Francesco Largo in fifth, Tudor Pressacan in sixth. The two Britons, Ray Imtiaz and Tom Roberts, in seventh and eighth. Roberts having a quietly good race, up 6 places. Then Dimas and Tony Hietala rounding out the top 10. Tulki in 11th place, Scott Holmes in 12th, and then Gabo Shontos and Jensen Rosen, as well as Cameron Dowds rounding out our finishers, with Dowds with 22 seconds worth of penalties. Thomas Echeverria, our only DNF from this Grand Prix. And, well, what a Grand Prix we had indeed. It was it was mostly surrounding that safety car that we had early on. And, well, that could be a surprising championship defining moment come the final round if anything goes askew for Hietala.
Absolutely. I mean, it's one of those weird situations where we most likely know at this point it's not going to change, but until we are basically there, we're present, we're seeing what drivers we have. Is Dowds absolutely 100% not going to be there? Because, you know, he told us that we're 2 weeks still to go. So if plans have changed, then who knows? There is still always that opportunity for something to change. So we cannot be completely official about it. But yeah, there's a high chance that this basically, as much as it was absolutely a horror show for Tony Hietala, it may have been the moment where, you know, because of Dowds not being able to get the good result, maybe even because of Sergio Sabrino not being able to get to second or first, it might just be the moment that absolutely does, I guess, seal it for him to some degree. But for it to be absolutely official, I guess you'll have to basically be with us in a week's time for our season finale come the Jeddah Corniche circuit.
Yes, it will be Jeddah that will be our host for the finale of season 42 and of this game cycle, which of course has been one of the most unique ones. We started in Spain in February, and we had a break after 3 rounds in the season, but now we head on to what will be the finale, and hopefully a dramatic finale indeed. I mean, let's just reflect on the season for a second, because of course we'll be reflecting on Tony Hietala, I'd imagine, after the last round. And well, it's just been such a good one to watch, especially the likes of Netherlands, the likes of Brazil. It gives me true hope for league racing, because it's just felt before this season a little bit of a damp squib, and it's just felt as though it's kind of petered out. But this season in particular has really reinvigorated league racing, in my opinion.
I think it definitely has, and I think with the DLC coming out, at least the first season, hopefully there will be a little bit of hype around it, and, you know, we'll see what drivers we get, possibly maybe a chance of some returning champions trying now to prove themselves at the start of a game cycle, to really make sure that they are appealing in a way that Angelo Di Ortenzio did. But yeah, it has definitely been some journey. It's definitely been some journey, not just this season. I think season 41 as well started to show some signs of it being a bit chaotic and it being a little bit more close and unpredictable. Season 40, of course, was the Angelo Di Ortenzio show. I mean, the 7 poles in a row and all of the ridiculous things that he was able to do that season were absolutely unbelievable. Was able to take 4 wins when it came to season 46 podiums, and of course 7 poles, as I mentioned, and that goes along with the championship that he also got in season 38, because of course, as I said earlier in the broadcast, he's a 2-time champion, and he won 1 championship in the final race by 5 points. He won another one in dominant fashion, returning back in season 14, penultimate race of the season, by 24 points. So he's kind of shown that he can do it all, and he's basically getting himself closer and closer to the top, which is absolutely fantastic. And I want more of these drivers, because we've got some deserving drivers in the field to also be presented with, you know, that type of opportunity. And we started this journey off season 40 at Austria. I remember it was myself and Nathan up here in the commentary box, so even though he wasn't the full-time commentator then, he was stepping in that day. Hopefully we'll be able to end it together as well in a week's time when it comes to the final race of the season at Jeddah.
Yes. Yeah, we certainly hope to see that. Nobody looks like they want to come and speak to us, so we'll round it off here, Omi. And, well, we had a very good race here today, a strategic race to watch. And, well, next time out, we will crown a champion. Thank you very much for watching today, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.